2 million twins in this country, about 50 million in the world, and we're all fascinated by it. Let's just accept that fact. There's something very fascinating about twins, the way they live, the way they think, and today we're going to find out a lot of really maybe incredible and maybe surprising things about twinships. Let's start with the Richmond Four, as they are known, because you represent the kind of bonding, the kind of twin bonding that we often hear about. Two identical twins, married to two identical twins, but there's one step beyond that, living together in the same house. Now, that is what I call closeness.
There is a bond that unites twins, and when a twin has lived as long as the two of us have together, and then marriage come into the picture.
And married late in life.
It's kind of hard to break that bond and go your separate ways.
So we live as much like one family as possible.
But I have to ask you, how hard was it to find two identical twins? When you decided you wanted to marry twins, how hard was it?
Real easy, you just had to walk down the street.
Oh,
We
come
were
on
looking
now.
for twins to marry. In fact, Art and Elle are the 13th set of twins we dated. We had said we would never marry.
We dated singletons too, but we always fell for the same guy.
And when, and when my sister became engaged to my boyfriend,
Did he know?
yes,
sure
he
he
knew.
knew.
He
He knew
knew.
The girl that he married looked enough like us to be our triplet.
But when she became engaged to my boyfriend, and we started fighting among ourselves.
We said it wasn't worth it.
So you decided to seek out and find twins.
Or
And
brothers.
Now, do you guys mind hearing that you were the 13th set?
We're not superstitious. No, we're not superstitious at
Something
all.
lucky about that number 13, huh?
They
In fact,
always,
we're the first girls we ever dated.
They were.
We're confirmed bachelors.
You said you weren't going to get married.
Right.
And then here come these identical women, and there you are identical. You were living together at the time,
Yes,
too?
we lived in our own home. We had our own home, and we went around together. The only time we ever were separated was during the war, and that was 4 years.
So what's it like living in the same house? I mean, most people think they get married, and then that's the time you strike
Well,
out
it's
on your own.
just
instead
like
of
living in a regular family home.
We have a single-family dwelling house, three-bedroom house,
with a dog named Gemini.
and we live as much as like one family as possible, with one exception. We're in the midst of trying to adopt twins that has
six
two
children.
brothers and two sisters, and we're trying to get all six of them.
This is going to be some household, I got to tell you.
But they have to be adopted with the understanding that we have two sets of parents, and each parent will have equal authority on discipline among those 6 children.
And we said it takes a twin to understand a twin.
Because there is a bond that unites twins. And this bond, among the third classification, mirror image twins, this bond is unbreakable.
And twins, whoever that twin marry, it has to be an awful understanding spouse, because that spouse is reality taking on 2 instead of 1.
If a twin marries a singleton, he's marrying 2 girls instead of 1 mentally.
Huh, well, now let's hear from about that. Is that a problem over there, Jenny and Terry? You both married singletons, and you're identical twins. Was it tough on them?
I think they're absolutely right. They're a lot closer than we are now, but we were very close at one time too. And we dressed alike, and we were identical, and chosen the most identical at different twin conventions. But I have to say, even now that we're not dressing alike, we are still very close. So we're just so close that if someone were to marry me and has married me in the past, and someone has married her, it's like marrying both of us.
So did you decide not to get married for that reason, Clarice?
We don't need to be married for a relationship as far as that's concerned. We feel fulfilled together. We want to stay together. We're very happy together. We're married to our music, in a sense.
Yes.
Also. We're professional pianists.
But they are an example now of the twins where they feel they're united with them themselves. They're complete. They don't need anybody outside of them. We didn't either until we rounded that one corner.
Until we turned around the corner one day and ran into
But
them.
let's stop at that point, because that does concern some people. Dr. Siegel is a psychologist who's looked at this whole thing of twin bonding. Is that a concern? Is that considered okay, that these 2 women complete one another as twins? They feel like their life is complete without a man or without marriage?
What I'm hearing here today are all variations on what we can consider the twin bond. That is the very special closeness that exists between identical twins. And it's a very common thing to hear from identicals that they do things better when they are together, and they're happiest when they are together. So I think that while some twins would choose to marry, as the Richmonds have, some twins would choose not to marry, as Clarice, and Alice.
Yes.
I think that these are all legitimate and all just represent normal variations along the spectrum of twinship.
Well, what about reared apart? We have Anne and Barbara were reared apart, did not know each other, were both adopted separately for, what, 36 years. What about this completeness? Now that you're back in each other's lives, you've only been together for, known each other for about a year. Do you have that same sense of you complete each other that you're hearing the other twins describe? You want to answer that?
No. I mean, it's a different dimension to my life, but I've always felt pretty good, you know.
When you were separated, did you feel like something was missing, though?
Oh, when I was a teenager, you know, and just something. I don't know if it's something missing. There's always been a little something missing in my life up until, you know, say, last 5 years or so. Just, you know,
Were
I
you
think it's
aware you
average.
had a twin? Although you didn't know,
No.
so you didn't know anything
No.
about it. How about you, Anne?
I knew since I was age 15 that there was a twin out there.
And did you feel that sense of incompleteness in your life?
Basically the same as Barbara, I think not for that reason, you know, but for other reasons felt incomplete. But I think our situation, not being reared together, makes the difference in a sense, yeah.
And of course, that's what Dr. Siegel's been studying, the effect of twins. How similar are they after being reared apart? What have you found out, just briefly?
We found out that the similarities are much more striking than we ever would have guessed, given that these twins are reared in separate environments. These similarities extend from IQ to physical similarity, to manners of dress, taste and preferences, hobbies, interests. Just about everything that we measure is more similar in identical twins than in fraternal twins.
Briefly, is it true you spent your honeymoon together in one hotel room?
Yes, we sure
Right.
did. We went to one place.
One hotel
There
room.
was only one room available, and the gentleman says, well, all I got is one room.
And he hung a curtain between the two
we
beds.
says, fine,
Well, that was decent of him.
In fact, we were surprised when we got here and found we had two separate rooms. We usually room together when we
When
go
we
on
travel.
trips.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're one family.
We're one family. You do it with your brothers and sisters? Or?
No. But that's all right. It's all part of understanding twinning, which we'll continue to do after this. We've heard a lot in the past few years, particularly about the psychic bond between twins, and even though the research kind of contradicts itself, there's some researchers who say there's absolutely no evidence of real ESP working between identical twins, and other researchers indicated some pretty surprising facts. Ruth, I think you can talk to this issue on a couple of levels. First of all, you lost your twin.
Yes.
She died
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So that in itself was a cut of a connection that was...
Definitely was a complete cut from being together and enjoying things together, sharing our lives together. So I think the first, well, ESP, whatever you want to call it, was when we were in high school. Well, our first was that we did not speak to anyone. We had our own language up until about the time we were 2.5. And we never said mommy, daddy, anything. It was just to each other, like we were in another world. Some people thought we were, I guess. Some people wished we were in another world. But anyway, then in high school, the day we were taking our English exam, I sat up in the left-hand corner of the room, and my twin, Nancy, sat way in the back in the last seat. And we know we have proctors going back and forth, you know, checking to see that no one cheats and everything. And this Dr. Rudy, our English professor, kept going back. She'd come up to me, read over the thing, go back, read over Nancy's, back and forth, back and forth. And finally, I felt like saying, come on, what's with it? So at the end of the exam, she said, would you two please come up here? And she took our exams and put them down. And she said, you picked out the same topic, you wrote word for word, right down to the commas and everything. And so she said, so that New York State doesn't think you cheated, I'm writing on the bottom of your exam, Nancy and Ruth Snyder are twins, identical twins. They sat in opposite ends of the room. They wrote word for word their final exam, and I want you to know they didn't cheat. Dr. Rudy.
We had a
We
similar.
have an identical story. Even though we say we do everything together, you can't take tests together. In college, well, of course you're separated, and they know you don't.
Identical
like you
story.
said. And the psychology department studied us for months after we got there because of this.
Right. The ESP stories. Al and Art have one I don't want to lose
Well,
here because it's really incredible.
During the war, I was in the South Pacific, and I was lost for about 2 months. And my brother, I didn't know this till after I got out of service, that my aunt said that he would walk 25, 30 miles a day like he was despondent over something. But when they got the telegram that I was safe, he did a complete change about.
Did you know? Did you
just like-
sense something was wrong
It's
with
just like you have I had a feeling this, I lost something for a while, and all of a sudden the feeling come back. I just felt, it wasn't despondent or anything, it just fell down the dumps.
But you feel a psychic connection, like you know
Right.
things are going on with one
And
another.
right now, just the last 4 years ago, I took my kneecap out. I tripped overboard and took my kneecap out. I didn't feel any pain whatsoever.
You
Walked
walked down
around the whole block, and I heard the knee crunching.
And did you feel the pain for him?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. After I got him to the hospital, I went home to get his things out, and I felt it when I drove back.
When
You hear
Lavelda
this
and I
story.
were in high school, she fell down a flight of stairs.
They went in the tell where they were taking me to the hospital.
They found me unconscious on the floor from the pain of experiencing her fall
Now,
downstairs.
those are the incredible stories.
And I could tell the doctor exact moment he started cutting, exact moment he started sewing. There's 2 different type of pains.
Are you kidding?
I'm
We got
not
identical
kidding.
scars.
What about
She had the
this?
same tooth pulled. Lost one tooth. And also when my twin sister had cancer, and that's what she died from, I was up visiting at her home, getting ready to go over to the hospital to be with her, but they were giving her cobalt, so I waited, and I was, while up there being busy, I was dusting her dining room table, and I had a pain, just like someone took an ice cube and smashed it against my head. So her son said, "What's the matter, Aunt Wu?" And that's what they called me. And I said, "Oh, I guess your mom just had her cobalt." So we laughed about it, Got in the car, went over there, and they were just bringing her up into the room. And so I said, "Hey, Nan, where'd you have your cobalt?" Because she'd had it on the breastbone and on her leg. And so she said, "Right here," and pointed to her head.
There have been some experimental studies done using twins to see if there is, in fact, an extra sense of communication between twins in these
Right.
experimental laboratory settings. The majority of evidence indicates that there is not. I
Crux
am
are-
very
there are
impressed with
3
the stories I've heard
classifications.
here today. I don't deny the reality of
Right.
any of them. I think they're striking, and particularly striking among identical twins.
Identical
But what I
mirror
do
twins.
question is that all of these stories are not documented as they occur. These are all stories that occur after the fact. So all I can say now is that as scientists, we must stay open to the possibility that there might be this special communication between twins.
Right.
But at the current point in time, we simply do not have the scientific evidence available to prove this.
Not all twins can feel this. Fraternal twins, identical twins cannot feel this. You have to be an identical mirror image twins to feel this. And one day my sister was in a car in an accident. It was teetering on an embankment. I went into a trance.
She didn't know I was in the car. I was supposed to be uptown in a restaurant.
And I could direct help to where that car was, like if I was picturing it like in a movie screen. And it has been documented that 30% of your twins do have psychic phenomena, and 30% of your twins are identical mirror image twins, and only the twins have what is called the true psychic
I
phenomena.
think you're running into personal experience versus scientific information, but we have to take a break. We'll be back. You're talking about your smile. We're talking about twins today, and recently there's been some of the astounding stories about twins who were reared apart and who found each other. The Jem twins, remember them? They ended up having the same name, having married one wife, then a second wife. Both wives have the same name. Incredible similarities throughout their lives, although they had never met each other until late middle age. Well, now, Ann and Barbara, you were raised apart for the first 36 years of your life. When you got together, did you find similarities?
Yeah.
What were they?
Most definitely. The first one was the tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The what?
The tea.
See, there you are talking twin talk again.
The tea. The person's home we were in, she asked if we wanted something to drink, and I said tea would be fine and not too warm or not too hot. And Barbara jumped in and said, "What?" And it's like we don't like to drink our hot drinks real hot. So that was the very first one we caught. And then I think when Barbara came to my home, maybe was another great one.
I went down to go to the bathroom, and when I came back down the hall, I had a little peek in the bedroom, right? I peeked in the bedroom. She had my bedspread on her bed. And the hair on my arms just stood up because I'm a real picky bedspread picker-outer, you know, and this was an unusual one.
Yeah.
And here it was, and that just...
That is surprising. I mean,
Typical for what we do find among the Reardon Park twins who take part in the Minnesota study. We do find that every pair has their own culture, if you will, their own set of tastes and preferences. The bedspreads in the case of Barbara and Ann, preferences for certain toothpaste or manners of dress in the case of other pairs. But every set that comes through, just about, has its own set of particular tastes and preferences, which I think can be linked to a large degree to their genetic commonality. You simply do not find this degree of similarity among fraternal twins, whether reared apart or reared together.
Even
That's
though
why
they-
I wanted to ask Terry and your sister, what happened that made you want to change from dressing alike and looking alike to your own individual styles?
Well, we were raised to dress alike and look alike, not by choice. Our parents felt that it was unnatural for us not to dress alike and make joint decisions on everything. So I'd say till we were 17, we woke up every morning, what should we wear today? Where should we go today? And everything was as if we were one person. Or would we like transistor radios or bicycles or 2 cameras for our birthday?
Right,
She
we
could
couldn't have a
I could not
bicycle.
choose a bicycle and she could choose something different.
We knew Terry and Janie from the time they were 13 until they moved in their late teens.
They were like 2 peas in a pod.
You couldn't tell one girl from the other.
20 years ago, Lavelda and Lavona judged us to be the most identical twins at the Chicago Free Fair. So we've known the Rowe twins for 20 years.
And they were very, very much alike. You could not tell one girl from the other at that time.
But I wonder how much of that was that we believed we should be alike, or how much, because we were never encouraged
at that
to
time,
think
from
differently.
your conversations, you wanted to be alike.
I
So
don't
what
know.
changed you?
Well, I don't know. Our father had a very strong influence on our lives, and
But apart from your parents, when we got you individually, apart from your parents, away from you yourselves,
excelled.
wanted to be
you know what it is?
alike.
I think it's a way of being right. It's a way of being right and controlled and doing the right thing, and it's an attention thing. We get attention, dressing alike and walking down the street, and I'll tell you, we felt very special at the time. And then when we had to separate, I found walking down the street alone and not getting attention, it was panic city. I mean, what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I'm not getting attention. And it's a very comfortable way of being right and being special, and in
being
our
twins.
case, pleasing our father. Oh, we can please him. He could walk behind us and look at everybody watching us.
What you're describing is something that mothers of twins have a real concern about.
Yes.
Do I dress them alike? Do I put them in similar classes? What do I do? And I typically advise mothers to let the twins enjoy the twinship. They are alike, they enjoy being alike, but at the same time to let them have experiences apart from one another.
Right.
A great example I can give you is a family who had 2 pairs of identical twins, both boys. One set was aged 10 and one set was aged 8. And of course, you can imagine the attention that a family would get with 2 pairs of identical twins. But one day, the mother had to take one member from each set with her on a trip. And no one looked at the twins. No one thought they were very special, because across pairs, there was very little resemblance. And the boys were devastated. So I think that you have to prepare twins to expect that they are going to be alone sometimes and to be able to feel like a solid individual.
You don't like hearing that. We always wanted the same things. We feel very strange if an earring comes off and the other person has on the other. But we were allowed to make the choice, and we think twins should be allowed to make the choice to live how
Would
they
you go
want to.
anywhere without the other one?
Oh no.
But that is a key word, to be allowed to be make the choice.
But
That's what we were. We were asked by lots of parents,
Yeah.
and we say, please let the children, let the twins do what they want to do.
Yeah, let Ann ask you a question.
I was wondering, is there like a new trend now, though, that where when they're born now, they aren't dressing them identically. So, I mean, is there a trend now?
That's the Mother Twin Club idea. They want their twins to be, quote, individuals. They're afraid if they make them alike, they'll not be. But Dr. René Zazo of Paris, France, stood up at the International Society of Twin Studies and said, we have made a mistake. A leading psychiatrist is saying. They said, what's the mistake? We have stressed individuality and forgot twinship.
He said, let twinship come first, then individuality will come of its own accord.
Don't
But
you feel like you're cheating yourself, though? I mean,
Why?
In
I'm
what
an
way?
extension of my sister. Why am I cheating myself?
We're
you're
more
not giving yourself any room for individuality.
I
it
am an
appears like
individual.
we're
I have a
individuals
separate
and-
mind from my sister.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you were reared
so-
apart. You were separate individuals. And
Right.
now to have somebody come back and say, I'm a part of you, I mean, a real close part
Right.
of you. I
Right.
want to be the completion of
Especially
you.
for Barbara,
Yeah.
because she was raised as an only child. So this is a real new experience in a lot of respects, you know, to have a sister and then a twin, you know.
Yeah.
But, so there's just a lot of things in our situation.
The bonds between the twins reared apart are very, very different than the ones reared together. The twins who've been reared apart find that they enjoy a certain aspect of their twinship. It's a new thing for them, and they can actually have fun confusing people and dressing alike, things like that.
But also it brings its own problems, and the problem of identity, and also the way society looks at you. We'll talk about those after these messages.
Woman to woman, woman to woman, every day.
All you parents of twins, listen up here, because I think you're going to hear some interesting points of view about this issue of similarities and choices and do you dress them alike and all the kind of society pressures that we place on twins or expectations that we have about twinships.
Well, first of all, I think parents of twins should be aware that when twins are in a family, they get an awful lot of attention, and often brothers and sisters are ignored. And
One time you were voted the most identical twins
2 different
at a
years.
twin convention, right? And now here you are dressed differently, and in fact there's something remarkably different that you did deliberately. You have different noses now. Let's talk about that one. That
Right.
decision.
We actually did a double McGum commercial. That's how identical we looked. So we did. Terry always wanted to have her nose done. I didn't like my nose. She liked her nose. I liked my nose. I didn't like either nose. I wanted to change my nose. So I finally changed my nose when I was 23 and in Hawaii. And our father from Chicago wrote a letter saying, with a check, here, have it done, Jenny. For me. And I really had no intention of having my nose done because I didn't think I looked terrible. I liked my nose. But I made the decision, oh, well, I guess I'll go ahead and have my nose done. I was still controlled by my father. And a day before the surgery, I asked the surgeon to give me a different nose for my sister. And it kind of changed our whole facial structures and everything. Parents should
But
allow
are you
them.
different in any way at all?
No, not really, but by choice, not because we're forced to be. We were given a choice when we were younger. Mother would lay our clothes out and say, okay, you dress the way you want to.
Then
And
when we were 10 years old, we grew up during the wartime when it was hard to get things alike.
World War II, by the way, and it was desperately
It's hard to
hard.
get things alike. So she brought us home identical dresses one day, but different colors. We wadded them up in a ball and threw them across
And
the
we
room.
took scissors, or I mean razors to the soles of our shoes and
So
cut
they
the
were
soles
different.
off because one had straps and one was
Our
tied.
mother says, okay, young ladies, if you want to be alike that much, you can learn to sew and make your own clothes.
And we learned to sew at the age of 10.
Have you ever
Just
dressed
so we
differently?
could be alike.
No, never. We never want anything
never.
different. And we were given the choice to do as we pleased, and we can't stand anything different.
Do the two of you live together?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you always lived together?
Oh, yes.
What if one dates another person?
We would never do that.
Do you have a relationship with a man, or what? What do you?
We usually like the same one.
You say everything alike. You have yet to say. I mean, your sentences are. I mean, you say things exactly in the same way.
It just comes out that way.
We have found on some personality variables, such as introversion, extroversion, and impulse control, that twins reared apart are actually more alike than twins reared together. Now, this sounds a little strange. However, when you consider that twins reared together fall into relationships vis-a-vis one another, such that one might lead a little more, you find that twins reared apart actually are free to express their full genetic potential away from the suppressor effects of the twinship. And in this way, they are somewhat more alike on certain things. Not in everything, but on certain personality dimensions.
Would you agree with that? You're the only ones we have here to ask on this.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask these gals. I haven't got your names yet. Who's the oldest?
I'm 7 minutes older.
Okay, that's what I would have suspeced from what
Yeah.
I've read on the study of twins. I would suspect
Because
you to be
she's
the
leading the
oldest.
conversation.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
more
But now that happens to you. You get locked into those positions, right?
Sometimes you do. And sometimes, even if the difference in birth order is only a matter of minutes, as is in the case of Jerry Terry and Jenny. Sometimes parents do have a tendency to treat the older twin as the older child, and you can get locked into these positions.
But I have no idea which one of you is the oldest because you just talk so in unison.
Well, are you ready for this? They got us mixed up.
So you don't know.
One was born a few ounces larger than the other, and then we got the same weight, and, you know, Mother and Daddy was showing us off to somebody all dressed alike, everything.
Honestly,
They don't
Clarence, though, I mean, is it, you have no differences? I mean, there's not one thing about you where you differ on any subject or anything?
You mean our taste and...
Yes, I mean, anything.
Oh, no, no.
Barbara and I eat very differently. She loves everything, and I'm pretty picky. And I think that would be environment.
Probably.
And yet, I was fed real well. My mother was a terrific cook, but I just don't have the taste buds
And
for
yet,
the stuff.
Dr. Siegel was saying that actually you could be more alike than twins who were raised together who developed different personalities.
Probably in that
yes.
area.
In terms of diet, I would suspect that's somewhat more environmentally determined.
Right.
But in our case, it's allergies that control our diet. We both, all four have the same allergies.
All four of
All
you?
four have the same allergies.
Oh, my
Now, we
goodness.
differ. Okay,
We
we'll be
differ.
back. We'll be back. Stay with us.
I got the allergies.
Now, we haven't heard too much about disadvantages here. I can't even get a word in here. If you notice that, I need a twin. I need somebody to complete my sentences.
Have your twin sitting there.
I did always want to be one, interestingly enough. But even when I wanted to have a twin, I always heard other people say, oh, you don't know, it's not as great as it seems to be. I saw your mouth go open right there. But just hold it. Just hold it. Because, Ruth, I think you can speak to this from an interesting point of view. One of the things that happens with that kind of closeness is that tragic moment that you might lose, which in many instances for a twin is like losing a part of yourself.
Well, it is. It's the most devastating thing that could happen to you, I can tell you that. Although you have your own family, it's not, you just don't have your twin to share with anymore. And so, and I honestly do not believe that they come back and talk to you and this and that, because if there was a bond beyond death, then I think I'd hear from Nancy. But,
What were the disadvantages in your mind, Ruth?
well, probably her illness was probably the most, to me, the fact that she got something that I didn't get, and when she had her operation, they wanted a skin graft, and I asked the doctor if I might give my skin, you know, and rather than have hers rejected, and he said, well, he thought maybe mine would reject rather than hers, and so we got into that, and consequently I didn't do it, and her skin rejected in the operation, so I don't know that mine would have been any different, you know, actually. But I guess just the loss, and everyone loses someone, but it's just a little different when you lose, when you lose part of you, and I felt like part of me
Were you
died.
frightened that maybe when she was diagnosed as having cancer that you...
No,
No?
never entered my mind. We never discussed death. We never discussed, and of course you knew, I mean, it's obvious it was going to happen. But right up until the last week, we just, in fact, one of the workers in the hospital came by and she called me outside and she said, I'd like to tell you, I don't think you're being realistic about your sister. You know, she said, obviously, she's not going to make it. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I walked by and you were laughing and fighting over who was going to wear the white skirt to Florida. She said, your sister's not going to Florida. And I said, I don't know that, do you? And so, consequently, of course she didn't, but right up until the last, we never, I mean, she was a very up person, very great.
But the question of that, of losing someone that close, I mean, Clarice and Alice, it's just a horrible thought to even interject here, but I mean, you have spent so much of your life totally connected to one another. What would you do if something happened?
We don't really think about it, but we don't. We think we'll go together. We know that we will.
We
know
used to
that we
think
will.
that way.
That's-
We used to have that fear because my sister was in the hospital one time.
They
from an
almost
accident.
lost me.
And they called mother and father and told them to come to Chicago and be with me, that they had bad news to break, and that they didn't want to break it to me personally, that my sister had until Christmas to live.
But you said
And-
you used to think about it. You found a way to come to terms with
Right.
this?
Well, I used to pray that when my sister went, I would go too. Then we met Art now. And that changed the whole picture.
It's changed our
for
whole
us.
outlook.
What would happen if one of you passed away? Would you share
I
the
hope
other
our
spouse?
husband is
or-
strong enough spouse that he can help us see
Help
through
the other
it.
one through it.
But would you share the other spouse? I mean, as a...
Not as a
As a
husband,
husband?
no.
But as a support team,
Because
yes.
I don't have feelings toward the other one that I have toward my own husband.
You never have
Cross
sexual
change?
motivations?
No.
Yeah,
No.
never?
I don't think there's no...
He's
I
very
mean,
dear to
there's
me.
no,
He's very, very dear to me, but not the same as what my
When we
husband
dated
is.
other
There's not that
twins,
closeness,
when we dated
I
other
don't
twins
think.
other than Art now, we pulled every trick in the book we could think of.
But nothing.
The moment we met Art now, we stopped the tricks.
But you know why people are asking you that question. I mean, you look so much alike
And
that
we
you
live
can't
like one
imagine
family.
why you don't have
Well, our
the same
bedrooms are
feelings.
next door to each other in the house and everything. Our bedrooms are identical, but we would not share the other spouse. This one's mine, and hands off to my sister.
And heaven helps my sister if she ever touches my husband.
That's why I got the broken leg.
And you've done
That would be
that.
the only thing that would come between us would be our guys.
That's interesting.
Do you
And
feel
but you
like
guys absolutely never get confused. I mean, you know that.
Oh,
Momentarily. But not when it
confused.
counts.
Or maybe when they go down the street or something, come from the beauty shop or something like that, maybe grab the wrong arm or something
And
like
our
that.
vision is
But there's a
not-
feeling there you can tell.
Our vision, sister, my vision is not that great that we can distinguish him clear across the room. We both are wearing contact lenses.
But you can distinguish them up close, is what you're
close.
telling me.
In the dark, I
And
can
by
take
the feel
hold
of his
In the
hand.
dark, I can take hold of Al's hand. I know right away. This
That's-
is Al.
Or if I grab hold of the other one hand.
There's a
it doesn't
vibration
the
I can
same.
feel there I cannot feel from Art.
What about the disadvantages, though? Some of you still haven't spoken to that question. Terry, Jenny, what were the biggest disadvantages to growing up as a twin?
Just loss of individuality and not being encouraged to be individual. I think it's fascinating, the doctor's observations about that people reared apart often are more identical, because one is more dominant, and it's almost a rebelling thing at times, and a controlling thing, and it's a struggle. And I'd
What
say,
about competition? Was there competition between you?
I never thought of it as competition. I think she did. Terry was more dominating, I was more submissive. No, now I remember it the other way around. So I don't think we ever competed, and she and my father and mother, they think
But
we...
you feel like you competed, right, Jenny?
She does.
Yes, I think I really didn't compete. I just kind of went along with everything my father wanted. And then when Terry and I were on our own, I went along with everything that Terry wanted. And I was a singer and an entertainer and did things I really didn't want to do because it was kind of something she wanted to do. And now that I'm all grown up, I don't want to do that
Do you
kind of
both
thing.
feel like you're in a more healthy environment now that you're individuals and go your own way?
Yes, totally. Totally.
Yeah, but still, I still feel that need to call her when I have a problem, and I'm holding myself back. No,
And
I
you
can't.
still have
I
the
have to deal
closeness.
with
Sisters.
problems of my own.
I choose to take that lesser role, but I was in that lesser role by being raised with two sisters and a brother. You know, I mean, somebody has to, and I'm more passive, but she doesn't realize I can be very domineering.
We have a lot to find out yet.
Cooperation and competition that can take
Right.
place between twins. And I think on the point of competition, one more thing should be raised, and that is the competition is different between identical twins than it might be, say, between two unrelated individuals, in the sense that because twins are so similar in terms of their abilities, they often spur one another on. And we've seen a beautiful example of this in the Olympics with Steve and Phil Mayer, the skiers. One got the gold medal and the other got the silver. And that's no accident that they are so similar. And one just seemed to spur the other one on. And we've seen this in swimming events and in other skiing events. It's a very, very common phenomenon.
And in piano playing, in the case of you two.
We just wouldn't compete against each
They play
other.
one piano, though.
Same thing.
I knew it.
Half on one piece.
We're taking a message. I'm sorry, we're taking a break. For the twins who are here, the twins who are there, and the parents of twins who are listening, let's talk about the kind of bottom line concern a lot of people have about twinning, twin bonds, the psychic, the ESP, all the various incredible stories. Is it really healthy to live a life as close as the two of you who live together as adult women, the four of you who live together in a home? What about that, Dr. Siegel? How does the medical profession at this point look on this kind of closeness?
I think that the bottom line in the medical profession is that you do want to encourage individuality, although you do not want to enjoy the pleasures, the closeness, and the comfort of the identical twinship. Now, a great concern of parents, as we mentioned briefly before, is the question of school separation. And many schools have the policy that you must separate twins. I do not agree that there should be one policy. I think that you must consider every pair individually. For example, I knew a pair of 5-year-old identical twins who went through an enforced separation at school, and one child simply couldn't handle it. He wouldn't respond. He was a bright child, but he simply couldn't respond normally in the classroom. So the twins were reunited, and several years later, they were separated, and things were just fine. So I think that you must handle each set as an individual pair, and let the twins decide. I think that they can tell you what's right for them.
We knew a set of twins that had stomach problems all their life, and they were being forced apart in school.
And their mother came to us after they had been to a twin convention, and they came up and put their arms around our necks, they looked all around, said, big twins, small twins.
Fat twins,
Everywhere I
thin
look, I
twins.
see twins. There's nothing wrong with being a twin, is there?
And that was the key word. There's nothing wrong with being a twin, provided it's the twin's choice.
And their mother said after that they had no more problems.
Well, now, you two have known the Frankel twins,
Right.
Jenny and Terry, for a long time, and you've seen them move completely into a completely different kind of lifestyle than you are leading. I mean, you have really, the identity is so much a part, the twin identity of your lives.
So we
and-
say let twins make the choice. For all twins, not all twins should be close like the four of us are, or like Ellis and Clarice. Not unless they're comfortable with it.
And not all twins can stand the outside peer pressure they're going to get from the teachers, their home, and their school, and their ministers to be different.
Well, you just got to find identical twins there. Come on now. I mean, you can't keep falling for the same man.
We're extremely happy. And if anybody thinks something is not cute, we just can't help it. We're just like we are. We feel like one
It doesn't
person.
bother us.
I think it's no accident that the twin bond has been described as the closest of human relationships possible. And it's understandable when you consider that twins do have similar tastes and preferences and do honestly enjoy being with one another. And I think that closeness, you can still have closeness, but still have a separate identity. One does not necessarily mean that the other one cannot exist.
What about this when you hear these stories? Do you wish you had had the twinness growing up? What's the impact on it
Makes
now
us
in your
realize
life?
maybe we missed out on something, but maybe it was good. I don't know.
What do you
Barbara,
think?
how did you feel coming from an only child situation and all that involves, and then finding out that you have an extension, so to speak, a twin? Were you as excited about it or at awed, or how did you feel all of a sudden there's another part?
It's a very unusual feeling. I know, like, the first day that she came to me, we spent most of the night on, sitting next to each other on the couch, and I was in shock, and I was actually crying and curled up, and just looking at her, and it was kind of strange. And then she stayed the night, and the next morning she left, and it was that weird feeling. Didn't want her to leave. But then for like 2-3 days, I wandered around the house like a zombie or something, and I'd look in the mirror, and I thought I was losing my mind. And I called a friend, and she goes, "Oh, well, you're just having an identity crisis." And I go, "Oh, okay." And then I was fine,
When we met, her hair was blonde, and then she started going back to natural. And
Well, the morning after she had, come to me, and I got up, and I didn't go in the living room right at first. She slept on the couch, and I thought, it's a dream. She's not going to be there. And then I thought, oh, no, it better not be a dream. But anyway, I went into the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and I felt very pale with the blonde hair, and I felt like I was sick or something. And I go, oh, that's what it is, But, yeah, it was a very...
then she questioned changing it. She
yeah.
goes, am I changing it to look,
to
the
look
identity
like her,
deal?
more look like her.
Or you just had the unique opportunity to see yourself with brown hair.
No,
Well, I mean, by looking in her face, you see.
Right. That's an advantage. I like that part. Like, I've always felt heavier than I want to be. And Barbara, when I met her, well, she's thinner now, but when I met her, she was heavier, and I'd look at her, and I'd know she was heavier, but I'd say, that looks fine. So for me, and then when I see her, things she wears and that I maybe wouldn't normally on my own buy or try, I look and I, oh, it looks good, I'll do that too, So I find that the advantage is there.
Good way of testing things out.
Most of the twins reared apart have said that they've been very happy to have found their twins. Some twins go on to maintain a very close relationship. Other twins do not. But I don't think a single pair in our study has said that they've been at all sorry to have found their twin.
Alice, I wanted to ask you a question. When you guys do everything together, and apparently you work together, and is your bedroom at one end of the house and hers at the other, where you have complete privacy, or
We sleep in the same bed.
right? Do you feel healthy about that? I mean, apparently you feel okay. Or
We can't imagine not doing that. We're professional pianists. We're together all the time. Everything we do
Practice
is
together,
profession
we
together.
plan together, we do everything
Have you
together.
ever had a fight or a disagreement on anything?
Oh, no.
I think a lot of
Have you
twins
ever
do.
been separated?
We have.
You have, right?
We have.
No.
Yeah.
Alice, how
She
come you
missed me
guys
by the radio.
don't have separate beds? I mean, I'm just confused. Just being an adult, wanting your own room.
Well, now, we never really thought of that. I mean, we never even considered
never
it.
came up.
It just never came up. Well, that would, you know, now, if you're in a motel and they're twin beds, there, yes, we've slept in two beds, but we
You
don't
never
like
met
it.
a man where you wanted, sister out of the way for a while, or
No, we would. We
would
like the same one.
How would you accept
your pleasure?
If we met twins and fell in love with them, it could happen. We might.
Nobody ever.
How would you accept a man who maybe was attracted to you, Clarice, and didn't care for you, and you liked him and didn't know until later on that he didn't care for your sister? How would that make you feel?
Well, neither one of us would like it. We can't imagine that would happen, but if it would hurt us both. It would hurt both of our feelings.
has anyone ever accused you of having sexual relations with each other by the way you live?
People ask that, of course.
So again, what we're
That's a
seeing here
normal
is
question of all
variation on the
twins.
twin theme. And what is proper and comfortable for these two is probably not the way other twins would choose to live. But again, this is just a variation.
People
on
do
things
ask
have been
that question
described.
of identical twins?
They definitely ask that question. In fact, adult twins, that's one of the first questions they ask. Are you alike because you're homosexual, because you're lesbian? And the first time I heard that,
We were
I was
shocked.
shocked.
We didn't
I had
know what
never
they
heard
meant.
the word
Really?
until I went to Chicago, and I didn't know what it meant and had to go look it up. And
We had to have somebody explain to us what in the world they were talking about, and we went into a shock.
It crossed my mind, and I don't mean to be, facetious, or
If you had asked me that
I'm
10
s-
years ago, I would have been insulted, but
Right,
today,
you
no, I am
understand.
not. I am used to it. So.
And you have had that question before as well.
Yes, people ask. Your question was, do people ask us?
Yes, do
Yes, some
people
people
ask you?
ask us.
Now I'm asking you, do you have relations with each other?
Oh,
The
no.
two of us?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay, I just want to get that straight for the record. Okay,
That's right.
we didn't want to end the show on a confusing note. Okay, and we have to take a break, unfortunately. We must end the show. I think you've probably heard a lot today, still going on. I'm sorry, there's no way to stop twin talk unless you're a part of it, that's for sure. But thanks for all the twin talk that we had today, and the surprising and somewhat controversial and also incredible things that you have shared in your lives and now you share with us. Above all, I think what we've learned today is that there is a special bond shared between twins, and woman to woman, you shared it with us today. We'll be back. Join us tomorrow.
Woman to woman.
Next week on Woman to Woman, women in the news. Does it make a difference that a female voice brings us the day's events? Media violence and kids. How much of the rock'em sock'em action and family fare television do our kids try to imitate? Sex and the disabled woman. They're bright, articulate, and in wheelchairs, but disabled women share their feelings on sexuality. Military wives, do they have the right stuff? And daycare. When you have to work, how do you find the best person to watch your child? All this and more next week on Woman to Woman. For a transcript of this show, send $3 in check or money order to Woman Transcripts, Box 6000, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45201.
Laugh along with Archie, Edith, Gloria, and Mike, and All in the Family next, followed by Rhoda and the Midday Edition News on Channel 9.
Drug-free Sassoon D shampoo and conditioner for dandruff flakes. No one will know you're using it. They'll only know when you're not.
Take a look under our roof. You'll find quality tools, hardware, and housewares, plus the personal attention you need at your nearby True Value hardware store or home center.
The Melnor Time-O-Matics are the only lawn sprinklers with a built-in timer. Just set it and forget it. it shuts the sprinkler off automatically.
Help keep America looking smooth and colorful. Wear new Color-Ols.
Sparkling Champagne, a masterpiece of good taste.
Wander through dozens of rooms of beautiful furniture at a Broyhill Showcase Gallery and take home a world of decorating ideas.
Hotel accommodations for woman to woman provided by the Beverly Pavilion of Beverly Hills, a little gem of a hotel.